and brush your teeth, I still see stuff at the table. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. We are going to go live and view the Fulton County Fani Willis hearing. So I'll be popping in and out because I got things to do, but I did want to stream this live for you. Right now, they're just getting ready to start their court proceedings. And I believe the judge said yesterday they're going to start at 9 o'clock. So that's why I'm online this early. Also, later on today, we do have a regular scheduled stream for 8:30. So you guys tune in for that. We are just going to review the Fani case, some of the highlights, in particular, the Fani Willis testimony and what's the guy's name? Nathan Wade testimony. I think it was a whole debacle. It was a debacle yesterday. Fani, actually, I didn't show that on the stream yesterday because I missed it because we was live doing, talking about Tiffany Henyard. But yesterday, Fani Willis, she really showed out in the courtroom. She stormed in there like she owned the courts. She claimed that she was not on trial, and she was. You're on trial, lady. You're not above the law. And for her to come in and acting like she was the judge or she owned the court was really baffling to me. But Fani Willis, she's really pissed off about the allegations that came out between her and Nathan Wade. They're saying now yesterday they are saying that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade are no longer in a relationship. That's what they claimed yesterday. But I think that allegation is true, or I think they are being untruthful. I really believe they're being untruthful when they're claiming not to be in a relationship anymore. Because it seems like when Fani Willis falls out with a person, it seems like she would be the person to fire you. Okay, so let's see if they're in court right now. Let me just share the screen with you. You guys put in chat. Let me know where you're viewing from. Oops. Okay, yeah, the court is in session right now.
Thank you.
Wade, Cromwell, Kathy Wade. Your Honor, Mike Smith, Quad V-Shape for Mr. Hampton, with local counsel John Monroe.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that at all.
With local counsel John Monroe, to my right.
Okay.
Richard Bryce and Chris Evelowitz from Mr. Cheatham, who waives his presence.
Your Honor, who waives his attendance.
I think we're now to Mr. Roman.
Good morning, Dr. Ashley, John Merchant for Mr. Roman, who waives his presence.
Greg Gillen and Anthony Lake for Mr. Schaefer, and he is present.
All right. And then Mr. Floyd. All right. Not seeing Mr. Floyd present today or anyone on behalf of his counsel. He received notice that today would resume. And so I will make a finding that he's decided not to attend today's round 2. All right, anything we need to take up before resuming? We have someone from the gallery.
Sorry, Robin Martin, I wanted to bring up John Morrison's office. He's sick today.
Okay, and Mr. Floyd has decided what exactly? Did he? Ms. Cross?
It sounds like it's a deliberate choice for Mr. Morrison not to be present this morning, and the defendant was certainly here yesterday if he joins later. Otherwise, I think we can call that a voluntary withdrawal.
Okay, I agree, and I haven't heard anything else from Mr. Morrison or any other counsel. Is there anything we need to take up before resuming testimony here? Let me start with the state.
I'm sorry, thank you, Your Honor. Yesterday, the state had asked that Ms. Yurdi be, her subpoena be held in case we needed to recall. I let her attorney know last night after speaking to we don't intend to recall her, and as far as the state's concerned, I know she'd already been released from from the other side, so there was no reason for her to be today from the state's concerned.
All right, Ms. Merchant, can we excusing Ms. Yurdy?
I talked to her attorney last night, and I said we had a different conversation, so I think she's still on standby. If we need to recall her.
So your position has changed since yesterday?
Well, based on the state's representation that they may have rebuttal evidence, but they didn't give us that, so I don't know what that is. So in rebuttal, if they present something in rebuttal that I need to call her to talk about, then I will.
All right, we'll address it as it comes up. What else? Anything else, Ms. Cross?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Merchant?
I know that we're still in the middle of Ms. Willis, but we need to address some of the things that were said yesterday in court in regards to Mr. Bradley's privilege, things like that. Do you want to do that now, or would you rather do that before Mr. Bradley?
When you say address them, what do you mean?
Well, there's a couple different issues, but we've got the privilege issue is one of them. But I also, what I did was I drafted all my questions, and I thought I could give those to the court, opposing counsel, everyone could review them, so we didn't have to worry about the privilege stuff. There were some allegations made. I had a transcript made of the proceeding yesterday. Some specific allegations that I think I should have an opportunity to refute. Specifically that I had egregiously misrepresented, that things that I had said were patently false, and that all of that information came from Mr. Abadi. Speaking of Mr. Chopra, I spoke with Mr. Chopra. We talked to him in the car on the way here on speakerphone, Mr. Merchant and I. And he said that he didn't tell Mr. Abadi any of that information, doesn't know where Mr. Abadi got it from. Mr. Abadi says that he did, and so, you know.
If there's any clearing of the air that needs to happen, and if we need to get to that, I think the right time would be once we've actually seen all the evidence that comes out. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the court know. Thank you.
And in terms of the privilege issue, if you're planning to recall Mr. Bradley, and you've actually typed out some specific questions, then yes, I think that would be helpful and might allow things to proceed a little more efficiently through his testimony. So if, to the extent you've got those typed out and are willing to provide those to counsel for Mr. Bradley and the state, I'd encourage you to do that. And before we call him, we can get into that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I have a copy for the court. I have one copy for Mr. Evans. I know Mr. Abadi was objecting to privilege yesterday, but I think it's actually Mr. Evans that needs to do that.
Was Mr. Evans is here? Okay. All right. Anything else from any counsel?
Both the rule, make sure it's still in place.
Rule is still in place. All right. Not seeing anything else. If we could bring back in Ms. Willis.
Actually, Your Honor, the state has no further questions for Ms. Willis, so
All right.
no need to recall.
Okay, Ms. Merchant. Next witness.
I think we're about to hit the privilege issue.
We are about to hit the privilege
There we are.
issue then.
Okay. Then do you need counsel need a moment to take a look at her questions?
Yes. So I've got a copy. Oh, I guess Mr. Evans.
And then do we have Mr. Bradley somewhere in the whereabouts nearby?
Mr. Chopra. I informed Mr. Chopra that he's still under subpoena. So
Well, him and his client.
Yes, I'm also with Mr. Bradley, and he's actually not here today.
We need you to identify yourself for the record, sir.
My name Van Ward. He's not here at this moment. He has a doctor's appointment that he's currently in as we speak. And his representation is on the way here as well. I'd love to be able to get one of
You have a copy of that?
I just need Mr. Evans.
Do you have a time estimate of when he's supposed to be here?
I have one copy of the questions.
Where's the doctor in relation to here?
Yes, at the very earliest, he would be free about 10 o'clock, 10 to 10:30.
All right, he's currently driving here as we speak.
He's at the actual doctor's office as we speak.
Okay. And
I think the council was informed of that last night, that he would not be here until at the earliest 10 to 10:30.
all right,
I wasn't until 10 or 10:30, but
sure. Ms. Merchant, other than Mr. Bradley, did you have any other witnesses?
not that I can call before Mr. Evans.
But I do think we can take up some of the privilege
Sure.
questions.
No, I think we can use this time to do that. So why don't y'all take a moment to look at the questions and then let me know when you're ready to proceed.
My part of it doesn't have to do with questions. I understood yesterday. I know these gentlemen are looking at the same time. you want me to wait until they have a chance to?
Well, I think you're about to maybe make a legal qualification here, so why don't we hear what you got?
Yesterday, it sounded as if the witness was going to decline to answer any questions at all in relation to communications or observations or anything, be it independent source or otherwise, that took place during the time of the alleged attorney-client privilege relationship, which is 2015, I think, until the present. I understood that as referencing not simply attorney-client privilege communications, but what we commonly refer to under 1.6 as confidences and secrets, which are not covered by the attorney-client privilege and are not barred from testimony or evidence in a courtroom. But it sounded as if the court is going to have to order Mr. Bradley to testify, and then Mr. Bradley will have to take a position of whether he's going to follow the court's order, heed the court's order, or whether he's not. If he does, then we'll be able to get in hopefully to the questions that Ms. Merchant has prepared on Mr. Roman's behalf. If he says, I'm not going to comply, then theoretically we're in a position in which the court will have to hold him in contempt. And then, at that point, my guess would be that somebody would say, I would like him to have the contempt stayed while I take it up on appeal. So I'm just trying to play through where we're going to be. Because if we're going to do that, we might as well know this before we start putting him on the stand.
I think that's a good thing to flag now, and I agree that yesterday during the hearing there was some intermingling of 1.6 and attorney-client privilege, and now having had the time to kind of parse through that, and it does seem that there is a distinction between the two. One is not covered by the evidentiary privilege, and pulling the case of Tenet Healthcare Corp., 273 Georgia 206, Supreme Court doesn't make that distinction. So to that end, Mr. Evans, as we work through these issues, I would say that when Mr. Bradley takes the stand, I would be directing him to respond and be responsive to any questioning that may be covered by Rule 1.6. That would be the order of this court. But that still reserves the issue of attorney-client privilege. So as you're reviewing those questions, we'll keep that in mind, and I'll be interested to hear your response. Anything else you think we should clarify before we take a break to look at the questions? Do you have a copy for me?
Yes, I do. A copy of the questions, Judge, and I also have copies of there's the exhibit that I would be filing. Would you like that as well? I just didn't know.
So I'm objecting to filing. You say you want to file it?
No, that I'm going to use Mr. Bradley's testimony. I think it will help, but we can wait and I can use it for a strict question that I gave Mr. Bradley.
All right, and counsel for Mr. Bradley, I'm sorry, could I get your name one more time? I didn't write it down.
Maybe I would.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ward, if we could get some regular updates of where he is and how he is progressing towards the courtroom. And then when everyone has had a chance to read these questions in the interim, let me know and we can take this up. Mr. McDougald.
I have a text message from one of Mr. Floyd's lawyers that he's logged in on the Zoom conference, Your Honor.
Okay. Is someone joining us by... Thank you. Is someone joining us by Zoom that wants to appear for the record?
Yes, Your Honor. Chris Kachuroff for Mr. Floyd.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kachuroff. And I think we had a legal assistant here announcing on Mr. Floyd's behalf, but I think it would be better to have counsel of record any announcement in terms of Mr. Floyd's presence this afternoon, or excuse me, today.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I don't understand. Did you ask a question?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Floyd joined us yesterday, but I do not see him here today. Do you have an announcement about his presence for today's hearing?
No, he will not be present, Your Honor.
All right.
We would waive his presence.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cottrell. All right. We'll be in recess until until I hear from the parties.
Thank you.
Okay, it seems like court is not going as planned or as scheduled. They probably thought they was going to bring or cross-examine Fani Willis again, because when the court ended yesterday, Fani Willis was on the stand. So apparently the guy that they wanted to talk to, and I believe that was Nathan Wade's divorce lawyer and friend, I believe his last name is Taylor, they wanted to cross-examine him after they heard from Nathan Wade and Fani Willis. And yesterday, if you guys remember, if you didn't tune in or haven't seen it, yesterday they tried to get Nathan Wade on the stand first, but they was not able to. They was trying to invoke lawyer-client privilege, which was kind of odd because it had nothing to do with his divorce. But they were trying to evoke attorney-client privilege. And so Nathan Wade wouldn't be able to testify, or the attorney. And so the attorney, Taylor, he looked quite perturbed just being there. And he voiced his opinion saying he wasn't trying to testify during this proceedings. So let me just see if I could find some of Fani's testimony. This is her mannerism and how she was acting yesterday. Now, to give her credit, just imagine, you worked your whole career, to build it up to become the district attorney of Fulton County. And I believe Fulton County is the largest county in Georgia. I need you to blow your nose and wash your face. But y'all need to start cleaning up your room. Your teacher canceled. He said he was sick. That's why you don't have it. Anyway, my kids are in foreign language class and they have a tutor. So anyway, this is Fani Willis' mannerism. Now, as I was saying, to give Fani Willis credit, just imagine you work your whole career and all of a sudden is kind of going down the drain. You've been the straight and narrow, and we don't know if she's been the straight and narrow, but that's what she told everybody, or that's what everyone perceived her as, to be, no BS attorney. She goes straight by the book. And even though her political ideology might be skewed, and her trying to make a career or highlight her career off of this Trump case, take that all aside, everyone thought that this lady was, straight and narrow. But coming to find out, she's not straight and narrow, or, she let this love affair ruin her reputation. Because you're a woman, one thing could mess up your reputation, and the things of in that particular field, if you have relationships with a married man, you're sleeping around with your employees or your subordinates, that will ruin your career forever. And I don't know if you guys remember me talking about Fani Willis, and I compared her to Kwame Kilpatrick's, I believe it was his chief of staff or something. And he ended up having an affair with her before he got locked up. And 15, 20 years passed since all that came out and done and over with. They went to trial, and this lady, her name is Christine Beatty, she is still dealing with that today. So women, we are held to a higher standard. We can't do the same thing that men can. We might say, oh, guys do it all the time, but no, it's not something that's acceptable in our society. Even in our Western modern society, it's something that we don't accept. Women don't accept it. Men definitely don't accept it. So when you portrayed yourself to be straight and narrow, and all of a sudden it comes out you're a floozy, people are really quite perturbed of that. And you could tell the judge at the end of yesterday's court, he was quite perturbed of the shenanigans that was going on in court. And I think he was really irritated of how Fani Willis came in like she was owning shit. So this is, like I said, I'm just going to play some of the highlights from the court yesterday. And you guys you tell me, how do you feel about Fani Willis?
As soon as we see the judge, you will see the judge, and we will take you throughout today. Updated both on air and online here at Atlanta News First. But before we jumped in, I thought I would catch you up on what you might have missed yesterday, just recapping what is expected today. Now, Judge Scott McAfee has already said he is not going to make a decision on whether the Fulton DA will be disqualified from pursuing Trump any further. He said today is focused on hearing evidence in this disqualification hearing. And for more on all that transpired yesterday, I want to send it over to Atlanta News First reporter Abby Kasouris.
People tuning into the live stream, listening to the intricate details of the relationship between Fulton County DA Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. The big bombshell from today's hearing, Willis herself taking the stand after a woman claims that the pair started their relationship years before they admit.
Please state and spell your full name for the court.
Robin Latrice Yurdy. Robin Yurdy testified Thursday that the personal relationship between Wade and Willis began in 2019 before he was hired in the election interference case against former President Donald Trump.
Did you observe them do things that are common among people having a romantic relationship?
Hugging, kissing.
Nathan Wade maintains the relationship began after.
Our relationship wasn't a secret, it was just private.
Their relationship is under the microscope because if Willis paid Wade as a quid pro quo, it could disqualify her from prosecuting the case. The defense trying to keep Willis from the stand, but after listening to testimony, Willis came barreling into the courtroom.
And I will too, Your Honor.
And you notice the news reporter used the word barreling in, because that's how she came in, storming in, like, oh, you're not going to talk ass about me. And then I think she was lying because the judge, or no, the merchant, the attorney, Michael Roman's attorney, asked her, oh, did you listen to what was going on? And she claims that she didn't listen to it. Then why the hell you storming in if you're not listening to it? You couldn't take it anymore, so you just came storming in to give your side of the story. And everybody's supposed to stop and say, oh, the star witness or the star person is here. And this, I don't know if they're going to play this part, but this is really crazy.
Questions about vacation, meals, and excursions.
I think I bought him. He likes wine. I don't really like wine, to be honest with you. I like Grey Goose. I bought him a bottle of wine while we were there, and the sippings that you do.
All of that is great TV, and people are glued onto it.
Criminal defense attorney Suri Chada Jimenez says Willis is losing in the court of public opinion, but there's not enough evidence to disqualify her from the election interference case.
I do not foresee that this case will ever go before a jury who are the right people to decide whether or not they did what they're accused. They're presumed innocent, and they're charged with very serious crimes, and only a juror should decide whether or not they're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Both Willis and Wade say their romantic relationship is over, but the two remain friends. In Atlanta, I'm Abby Kasouris.
Romantic until after, but at the crux of the case is whether Fani Willis benefited financially.
He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me. and then think that you're not going to get an answer. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
Fani Willis, again, defending her decision.
So you see, she's saying that the only man that foot her bills was her daddy. That doesn't even say, and you used to be married woman. So what kind of woman are you? You know, you I know you're an attorney, but I don't know if you guys remember what's the one guy that ended up dying. A lot of people really didn't like him, Kevin Samuels. One of the things he used to say all the time, he said there's 3 types of women that you don't want to marry. An attorney was one of them. He said you never want to marry an attorney. And it's like you used to be married. You used to, you know, I'm assuming her marriage lasts a few years. I guess you couldn't stand it. For a man to be a man, you had to wear the breeches. So her arrogance and her to say he never paid for anything, and so you just want to be a man. I mean, I just can't imagine being in a type of relationship with a woman, and I'm viewing myself as a man. Be in a relationship with the man and you feel like, oh, I can't give this woman nothing because she got everything. Men like to feel needed. So with Fani, and this is okay, let me step back. I said I don't think I think they're lying saying they're not in a relationship. If Nathan Wade is which I don't think he is, if he's a manly man, he would not be in a relationship with Fani Willis. It will be very transactional, I think. I think she was using him for, you know, a piece of something and to have control over him. And if I'm thinking correctly, Nathan Wade probably said, oh, I'm not the person. I'm not the person that you could control. And she is a very different person than Jocelyn Wade, Nathan's wife. Very different. You could tell Jocelyn Wade, and maybe she's not. She doesn't seem like she seems like she's a really girly girl and a wife. Just a normal wife, a normal traditional wife, because she stayed at home and to raise the kids. They even stayed together until the kids were out of the house and into college. This is what Nathan Wade said. That's why they didn't divorce right away. He said their marriage was over with in 2016, which I found that hard to believe. And you stay with somebody just living in their house, y'all just living together for 7 more years because your kids need to grow up. But anyway, people do it. But like I said, Nate, she's a totally different person than his ex-wife, and she's a real she's mean and mean-spirited. I think the way she came in is like, girl, you need to fix that attitude. Let me see if they plan any
headlines earlier this.
I just want to keep it on his channel because
late last year, earlier into this.
I don't want to miss any of the when they come back to court. So right now they're at recess, and I'm just going to keep the channel live until they come back.
Attacked here. So this evidence hearing that's supposed to play out today, Judge Scott McAfee saying he's not going to make a decision on whether Fani Willis will be disqualified from pursuing Trump and the RICO case. He wants to hear evidence today.
You guys, another thing I want to point out, they're not going to, like they said, the judge is not going to determine whether to disqualify Fani Willis. As it stands yesterday, from all the testimonies that I've heard, I didn't hear like a smoking gun. I think it's some ethical problems with Fani Willis, but I don't think it's going to disbar. I think she should step down from this case. They might disqualify. I'm not for sure, but if we're looking at the long view, I think they're still going to pursue Trump. I really do think that's what that turnout will be. So you guys put in the chat, let me know if you agree with that. Like I said, I didn't see no smoking guns. I know there's some ethical problems with them having a relationship, but I didn't see no smoking guns. And then the judge yesterday, they tried to keep on rehashing to try to find out the flow of money and rehashing it. And the judge stopped them from beating a dead horse. He stopped them, and they kept on asking questions in a different way in regards to Nathan Wade's how does he get paid and how did Fani Willis reimburse him. And the judge finally got tired of Michael Roman's attorney and the Trump attorney side from asking those questions. He really got tired of it, so he stopped them. He stopped them from asking those types of questions. So it would be interesting to see if they do cancel this case. Now, as far as ethics, DA Fani Willis should, I don't know if she should lose her license, but she should get suspended. But the Democrats probably are, they're probably trying to weigh the pros and cons. Right now, they're probably trying to weigh the pros and cons. Should we hang this woman out to dry? She was our once savior, and now she got all this stuff that's happening that we're trying to get rid of Trump. So should we hang this woman out to dry? And I think that's what ultimately is going to happen. And Democrats they real shady like that. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that they're going to hang this lady out to dry because of their political agenda. Let me just get to some of your chats. I see we got Lauren Logan in the building. She said she's a new sub. Thank you for tuning in. Sandy Rodriguez, thank you. It's great to see your chats in the comment section. I know you're a loyal subscriber. We see Lauren said, or Laura, I don't know where I get Lauren. Laura said, Fani has no class, period. And she doesn't. She's so arrogant. I can hardly stand it. Exactly. Babonic said she is so arrogant. That's describes her to the T. She's very arrogant. Detroit in the house. What up, though? Corey Joseph. Thank you for tuning in. I am your neighbor. Pure Blood. Holla from Arizona. Thank you for tuning in. Laura Logan says, from what I watched on yesterday, it seems like the judge let Fani run his court. And I think the judge, he did. He probably was like, is this shit really happening? Because like literally she came blasting in like, like I own this joint. And it's like, no, you don't own nothing in here. The courtroom says judge, or I think his name is Scott McAfee. This is my courtroom. And that's what he should have checked her. If I was her, I would have checked her. I don't care if you the DA or not. You come in, and she came in blasting, and you guys, let me just find it. I'm going to find it right here. She came in blasting, huffing and puffing, like, she was upset. Like the nerve, the nerve of you. It was really, really odd. Let me see. Let me see if I could. I got a lot of. Like literally everybody is filming this. This is like must-see TV. Fani Willis testifies at hearing over alleged misconduct. I'm trying to find if I could see. Let me see. Twitter is a good place where you could find highlights because Fani. Let's see if we could. Let me just share this tab with you.
And then pay him a bunch of money, and then he takes you on vacation and you claim you gave him cash? What about office romance? Without
about just
returning to the office.
You don't want to go.
Oh,
The vast majority was cash out.
Cash out. You paid cash versus cash out.
Oh, the vast majority was cash out. I don't know what percentage, I'm not going to guess that. But the vast majority was cash out. But there would be times she would say, this bill came in.
Did you ever pay him anything other than cash?
I've only given him cash a few times in the course of what we're talking about.
So you've
if we would go to dinner,
Let her finish her answers.
if we would go to dinner, I wouldn't give him cash because he paid for dinner or I paid for dinner. I've given him cash only a few times in life, probably 4.
Okay.
Probably the most money I've ever handed him is $2,500. The least amount of money I've handed him, probably between $500 and $1,000.
You never wrote him a check?
Ma'am, I don't have checks.
Okay. Would you say you paid cash versus cash out?
Oh, the vast majority.
So she said, "Ma'am, I don't have checks." Okay, and that's reasonable because I don't keep a lot of checks. I have a bunch of business checks, but not personal checks because I do everything online. With that being said, why would you? I think it's still an inconvenience for me to go to the bank and take out money. Fani Willis, see if it comes up. I'm typing in Fani Willis bus in the courtroom because, like I said, this stuff was storms. Let's see, storm. No, it's still not putting anything up. Let me see if I can find it on Google. Pure Blood said, well, what goes around comes around. Samuel Battle, she came in like a bulldog, no humility. Yeah, and I wish I could find that clip because that to me, that was unreal. I was thinking like, this lady is lost her damn mind. Fani guilt was on full display. Yeah, I think her guilt was on full display. I think like at this point, it's like, we know you did the affair. Why are you so mad that people are going that's looking into your background? I just didn't understand that.
His testimony is done.
How did you know to come into the courtroom right then?
Because there were people, I was pacing in my office.
Okay.
And I heard someone yell, his testimony is done. It only made sense to me that I would be your next witness. And I've been very anxious to have this conversation with you today. So I ran to the courtroom.
So as soon as you heard that Mr. Wade was done testifying, that's when you just assumed you would be the next witness?
It only makes sense.
Did you listen to any of the testimony?
I've been in my office pacing, ma'am.
Okay. Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Now with ShipStation, we are shipping 500 beauty boxes a month. It takes less than 5 minutes.
So, like she said she wasn't even watching the courts, the testimonies. How would you know that will make sense for you to come in at the time you came in? Like I said, that's another lie. I think she's lying on that. Maybe you don't have a TV in your room, but YouTube, you could stream it on you. Like literally everybody that's a political channel is streaming this. So I think, like I said, I think she's been disingenuous about what she's saying on the stand, and she's very arrogant. She's very arrogant, and she acts like she is the judge. Pure blood, the left will sacrifice Fani and Wade. Yeah, they should have been sacrificed Wade. Did you see his? Now, I know I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but this boy, you know, he was writing the special bus. I wonder how Wade got his law degree. Now, Jesse Waters, he did a couple of hit pieces about Nathan Wade, but, you know, he was jokingly about it. But, you know, Nathan Wade is... he is an accomplished lawyer. I'm assuming that he does a lot of hit and run cases, that kind of thing. And I'm saying he's an accomplished lawyer in Atlanta. Now, Jesse Waters pointed out, what big cases have he ever won? I think he won one really big case back in the day, and it was like a theft case. The other case was he was being dishonest. I guess the other lady, one of the ladies he was representing, she got hit by a semi truck. They tried to lie, they're saying that she had all these damages and, you know, and tried to sue for $300,000. And they said he lost that case. So you get hit by a truck and he's not good enough attorney to win a case where it's literally clear and shut, if they didn't lie. So maybe he was lying. And you could tell Nathan Wade is a liar. You could clearly tell Nathan Wade is a liar. The way he the way he was answering questions, he's just a liar and a BSer. And those type of people I tend not to trust, especially those type of men's. Nathan Wade, and I mentioned this previously before, because he lies so much and he's a BSer, I think he's a serial cheater. I really think he is. He tried to hold his ex-wife to, a certain standard. And come to find out, he mentioned this yesterday on the stand saying, oh, my wife had an affair back in 2016. How many affairs have you had, Nathan? She probably was sitting, raising your babies, and while you was out gallivanting the street, dogging her out with many different women. I don't know if these are true or my perception of him is true, but he seems like he's the type of person to do that. He seems real sleazy in a slum, a sleaze bag. That's the word I want to use. He seems real sleazy and like a normal sleazy attorney. When you think of sleazy attorney, Nathan Wade picture probably shows up. Now, Pure Blood, thank you for subbing. Thank you for joining us. Let me see who else. And you're absolutely right. Georgia law is very specific. This is misconduct. And yeah, and I think she will probably be disbarred from this, from attorney. Like I said, this is very unfortunate. I don't like that they are trying to prosecute Trump. I think it's a total witch hunt, not to say what everybody else is saying, but I think it is. It's your election interference, like to the 10th power. You are prosecuting the main, your political opponent. You are, and I would like to see them tap into, and maybe this is the Judiciary Committee, to tap into the coordination between the White House and all the other DAs throughout the nation just to prosecute Trump. That is a crime. Election interference. So what I was getting at, even though I don't like Fani Willis and what she was doing to Donald Trump, I could just imagine building your whole career on whatever, and just one instance, it's gone away. It's gone away. So I don't feel sorry for her, but it's like, dang, that's really messed up. And then the people that you are fighting for, they are going to hang you dry. The very same people that you were fighting for, and you thought you was going to be their black savior, maybe Black Mother Teresa, and they're going to hang you dry. And all the claims that you made that big speech at the church saying, oh, they're just doing that because I'm a black woman, and they're doing that because to Nathan Wade, they're questioning him because he's a black man and an accomplished man. No. Now you could say you're an accomplished woman. We could say that. And I think she has a very good record in prosecuting people. So we could say you're smart and you have a good record, but like the arrogance, you take the arrogance away and where's the humility at? You should be more embarrassed than anything, not mad, more embarrassed that, hey, it was a weak moment in my life. This is what gets you past this type of thing, not standing on the hill that's burning up. So you're going to die alone on that hill. What gets you past this is being showing some type of humility and forgiveness and regret. Hey, I'm sorry. This was a weak point in my life. I did not use my better judgment, saying sorry to the public, sorry to the court. Well, maybe that's not a good idea because you're trying to prosecute Trump. You got to do that afterwards. But saying you're sorry will be a good starter. And I was a weak point. It was at a weak point in my life. Doing something like that would be one of the things that would have kind of helped her throughout this process. But right now, they're just going to rip her to shreds. And she's gaining more enemies. Since she appeared in that court, she's gaining more enemies and people not to like her than anything. She shouldn't have even came in the court or stormed in the court like that. Like, oh, I'm going to set the record straight. And then she sat down and started ordering people around. I need file 12. I need file 14, blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, for what? You don't own the courtroom. And you're saying you're not on trial. You are on trial. They're looking into your conduct and to see if you misuse funds, if Wade had any, you hiring Wade had any financial advantage towards you. They're looking into that. And for some reason, I think she's lying when she said she paid Wade back. I don't think she paid Wade back. And if you did, I think you're stupid. I really think you're a stupid person. If you pay, the man that you sleeping with is trying to wine and dine you and you pay them back, you guys put that in the chat. Do you think a woman will pay a man back? And let's take it any step further. They have revealed that she has some tax problems at one of her properties. I don't know if that property is paid off. Then they revealed she rented this condo from her ex friend. Okay, so you staying in this condo, and it sounded like she had money problems, or money was tight, and so you were so willing to pay Nathan Wade back because you're paying the mortgage and the condo at one of the others, another place. Why did you move over there? Why did you move to this other place? Because you respect your father. You didn't want to have this man coming in and out your house. So since you respect your father, this is what my take on it. She respects her father so much. Hey, I don't want to have a man coming in and out my house. And then my children is there. I don't want them knowing that I'm dating a man. I want my children to still perceive me as their mom and a good person, which is totally fine. So you rented this condo. So you and Nathan Wade could sleep around. That's the only reason why you have this extra condo. Because why in the hell would you move to somewhere else and you got this perfectly good house? It's because you wanted to sleep with this man and you want your children and the public not to know what you was doing. It was a secret. Guys, put it in the chat. Let me know if I'm going in the wrong direction. WRIM 970, good to see you again. Hello. Kafa Yahoo, is it Yahoo? IRS investigation next. Put it in the chat phonetically. I love to pronounce people's name correctly. IRS be taking notes. Yes, they were sitting back in the courtroom. IRS was like, oh, you transfer money. He received money, X amount of dollars in cash. Did he file all his taxes? That's what the IRS was doing. Busted watching testimony. Fani so mad her mouth gets ahead of her mind. Yep. Vanilla Shake. Even her American flag pin is offended by her. The American flag was upside down, like, you do not stand for America, girl. Like, I don't know what country you stand for. This is not the American way. You's a floozy. WRAM 970. I see we have a member of the Fani Willis fan club here. Oh, I didn't catch that. Do we have a member? I appreciate your coverage. And he was injury lawyer, not a criminal, not criminal. Yeah, he's never. I don't think he's ever prosecuted a criminal case, and so she hired him as the investigator, and I guess he was like the manager of all the attorneys. Like, what do you manage? You don't know how the court proceedings work. I just don't understand. How is he a manager over the attorneys? In my mind, in my mind, as a manager, you know how the ins and outs work as far as the court proceedings for criminal law. Okay, so in RICO cases, and I hear Georgia State has a different statute on RICO charges. They have their different laws. It's not the same as the federal law. So what I'm getting at is, how can you manage something that you don't have experience in? Like, what is wrong with Fani? So that's why I truly believe that their relationship started prior to him getting hired. The woman and they might throw her testimony out. I'm not for sure. They're probably working on getting that lady's testimony out, because they're probably saying the ex-employer of Fani Willis, and she's an ex-girlfriend. They went to college together. Fani Willis just said, "Oh yeah, we didn't stay in touch that much, but I know we was friends for about 10 years after she moved to Atlanta." You knew her so much that she let you rent a place from her. So it's not like, and then you hired her. She worked in your office. So it's not like you don't know her. And y'all became good friends. Maybe you was associates in college, but she's trying to act like, oh, I don't see her as a friend. Well, y'all was good friends back in the day. Yeah, don't try to act like you wasn't friends. But what I was getting at is Fani Willis, she rented this place prior to her and Nathan Wade, her hiring Nathan Wade. From that girl, they're probably working on to try to get her case or her testimony thrown out, because this girl, that she said she ended up quitting, and it was like a forced quit. They bumped heads on some things. So they might be saying, oh, this is just a disgruntled employee. We don't know. But I'm thinking Judge McAfee, he seems like he's fair and balanced. I don't think he's going to do that, but we'll see. I know they'll probably be trying to make a motion to throw her testimony out. That was the most damning testimony. That particular one was the most damning testimony. And she said when she visited Fani Willis at the condo, Nathan Wade will come over, and they were affectionate. That's how she knows she was in a relationship with him, at least sexually. Nathan Wade blames cancer. He said he had a bout with cancer, and I'm assuming it's prostate cancer. Fani Willis got really offended by the question. She said, I wasn't going to emasculate a Black man. It's like, over cancer? What do you mean by that? You're not going to emasculate a Black man. That doesn't make any sense. Nobody asked you about that. Let me see if I can find that. Emasculate. Oh, this is it. You got it.
With Mr. Wade in the year 2020, correct?
I had some contact with Mr. Wade.
Would you explain when you say some contact? Please tell us, talking about 2020.
I had some contact with Mr. Wade in 2020. One of the reasons your allegations are so preposterous, or mismerchants that you have joined, is...
Ma'am, I didn't ask you about the allegations. I asked you about your contact. That's all I ask you, okay? I appreciate that you want to say something, but
I'm interested in, did you have contacts with Mr. Wade in 2020? And your answer so far has been yes, correct?
Very limited contact because Mr. Wade had a form of cancer that makes your allegations somewhat ridiculous.
I do appreciate the
I'm not going
characterization.
to emasculate a black man, but I'm just telling you.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not going to emasculate a black man. Did you understand that?
All right,
Well, I don't
let's
think
get
we should
back on
discuss
track.
further.
Mr. Sadow, next question.
And to me, that was very unnecessary. Okay. You could say, hey, this is how you answered the question. In 2020, did you have any form of contact with Nathan Wade? Yes, I did. But the contact was limited because Nathan Wade was going through a health issue. If you wanted to just not tell what the health issue was, Nathan Wade was going through his health issue. Now, this is why I wonder when the relationship started. They met in a conference in 2019. You had limited contact with him. It seemed like, yeah, you guys jumped up. 2019 probably was the start of their relationship, really. If you really think about it. 2019 was the start of their relationship. They probably had some one night stand. This is what I'm thinking. Look, I've been around for a long time. This is what I get from what she's saying. I'm just reading between the lines. The other lady claimed that they met at a conference in 2019, and I think they exchanged numbers. They probably started dating back and forth. They probably just was, since he was still living with his wife, they couldn't go full throttle. So they was probably just sleeping around here and there. And then Nathan Wade got a scare. That's why I think he probably was with his wife then, because what brings a marriage back together? When you get a health scare. Your wife usually, even if she's pissed off at you, she's usually the person that comes to your aid and take care of you. So limited contact. Like I said, you don't have to be a rocket science to put the 2 and 2 together. I know they're in the court of law. They have to prove everything. But in the public, this is what people are thinking. So her taking a stand further did damage to her career in the perceived notion that she has a tarnished background and she's not being truthful and honest about the whole situation. Shout out to I Love My Ad Block. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate you. And of course, from Newburgh, Germany is in the building. She's the reason why men leave the country. Exactly. This is a classic reason why they have passport bros. You guys. Okay. So let me just get to some of the other chats. Laura says she's lying. However, I don't think that anything is going to come of this. Another waste of taxpayers' money. Yeah, it's all a show and dance. Only thing I think that will come to this, I don't think they're going to drop any charges from Donald Trump and the co-conspirators. I don't think one has to do with the other. They might dismiss her from trial. I think they probably will take her off, but I don't think it's going to necessarily drop the case of Donald Trump and his 19 co-conspirators that they're claiming. Even though I think the whole charge is frivolous, I think it's just totally made up. But I do think something will come out of the ethics committee. Because I know Georgia State is looking at her now, and the Judiciary Committee is looking at her now for those federal funds use. So something's going to come out, but I don't think it's with Donald Trump case. Now, the good thing for Donald Trump, This case might go to shit because they don't have Fani Willis over the case anymore. And then it leaves for the attorneys to start dropping, disputing some evidence that they so-called found, because Nathan Wade was the actual investigator in this case. So if they drop Fani and Nathan, hey, we got to dispute, or we got to question all the evidence that he gathered. We want to question that. So this case just might go to hell because of this thing. Let me see. Let me make sure they're not back in court. They're not back in court. They're waiting. I think his name is Blake. Last name is Blake. They're waiting for that attorney to come back. Sleazy fits both Fani and Wade. Both are ghetto. I don't know how they got these positions. Like I said, Fani Willis, you know, if you go back to some of her campaign material, she ran on, hey, I won't sleep with none of my people. The public or the residents deserve to have a DA in Fulton County representing them that won't have all types of sex scandals and different types of allegations coming out of their county. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to share this post with you while we're waiting. And this is YouTube, on my YouTube channel. Let me just go to view. See the last one from Fani Willis. This is it.
Going to be able to.
This is her being interviewed. I don't know if you guys ever watch Undisputable, Dr. Richie. What's going on? I'll be there in a minute. Dr. Richie from Undisputable, real liberal. He's real lefty. Only reason why I watch him is to make content off of his videos to dispute it. Anyway, I believe this is one of his commentators that's on his show. So she's questioning, hey, why should we? You're saying this man doesn't deserve to be in the office and he has 25 years of experience. This is the guy that she ran against. And this is what she had to say.
You have a DA sitting there that doesn't have the qualifications and the experience to do the job. What I can guarantee you is with my reputation, with my community ties, I am going to be able to attract the best and the brightest minds to that office. You're sitting with someone today that actually wants to make a difference because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees, because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children, because we deserve better.
The affidavit also clarifies that although the district attorney Willis and special prosecutor Wade have been professional associates since friends since 2019, there were no relationship between them in November 2021. When? Really? So DA Fani Willis, she ran on opposing her opponent. All the stuff or all the scandals that he was dealing with, she ran against that, saying, hey, look at me. I'm straight and narrow and clean. I would not do those types of things. Okay. I will not do those types of things. We won't have sex scandals in my office. She even goes to say, let me just see if I can find that clip. She even goes to say, I will not sleep with my subordinates. I will not sleep with my subordinates because I think the public has so many things to worry about than sex scandals. Those are her words. Those are not my words. Those are your DA, Fani Willis, words. Let me see. It's so funny how you go back and look and see. I did talk a lot about Fani Willis. I don't know what video that is in. I'm going to find that clip. I'm pretty sure it's buried in somewhere. So you guys, what I'm going to do right now, I'm just going to let the stream play, and we'll see when the court is going to come back to session. I'm going to take a few minutes break.
That was filed on January 8th, and in which Michael Roman has claimed that both Fani Willis and Nathan Wade have been engaged in an improper, clandestine personal relationship, as I'm reading directly off of the motion, during the pendency of this case. That has resulted in the special prosecutor, that's Nathan Wade, and in turn the district attorney, Fani Willis, profiting significantly from this prosecution at the expense of the taxpayer. So, if you are going to take away anything from this, the allegation here isn't whether Fani Willis and Nathan Wade had a romantic relationship. The allegation being discussed here is whether Fani Willis and Nathan Wade misused taxpayer money and crossed ethical boundaries in pursuing Trump's RICO case, and that involving 18 others. Again, if other defendants were to join Wade's motion, the judge's decision on the case would still have to be whether to keep Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and Nathan Wade on this case, or whether to send this to another prosecutor altogether. Now, Fani Willis, in the meantime, has been very outspoken about this situation. She responded with a 176-page court filing directly in response to that motion filed on January 8th. Her response coming on February 2nd, that basically said that the two were in a personal relationship. She has acknowledged that. That is, has been confirmed by Fani Willis herself, but she argues that it is not grounds for disqualification and that funds were never misused at any point from the district attorney's office. Now, Willis has also said that she and Wade were not in a relationship when Willis hired him as a special prosecutor in the case against former President Donald Trump. That was back in 2021. Now, on January 18th, just 10 days after Michael Roman's filing, Willis filed a motion of her own to toss her subpoena in Wade's divorce case. The motion arguing that Wade's estranged wife, Jocelyn Wade, was conspiring with, quote, interested parties like Roman and using the subpoena to interfere with Willis's investigation against Trump. So as you can imagine, a lot of drama has stemmed from that motion, from these allegations against Willis. Now, Willis claiming and addressing Wade's marriage and his divorce proceedings, that Wade's marriage was ultimately and irretrievably broken as far back as 2017, before Willis and Wade had even met. So in that case, Willis's testimony would be irrelevant, and the subpoena is only meant to embarrass her. Those were her words, her arguments herself, as she faces, again, from all sides, questions about her role and her intentions in pursuing former President Donald Trump in a very highly publicized and national, almost, at least capturing national attention in her RICO indictments of the former president. Now, meanwhile, I want to make sure we talk about both parties here. Former President Donald Trump and his attorneys have been watching this hearing closely. I mean, former President Donald Trump taking to Truth Social himself to say, quote, Fani never paid cash. She got free trips and other things from her lover with the exorbitant amount of money she authorized to be paid to him. A giant scam, a witch hunt. That directly, again, posted last night, or yesterday evening, I should say, from former president onto his media platform, Truth Social. He also went on to say that by going after the most high-level person person and the Republican nominee, referring to himself, of course, she was able to get her lover much more money, almost $1 million, than she would have been able to get for the prosecution of any other person or individual. So former President Donald Trump's argument here is that he is being prosecuted and pursued by Fani Willis just as an attention grab or a career grab, essentially. But ultimately weighing in that he believes she deserves to be disqualified, of course, because that impacts whether she pursues him or whether another prosecutor will take on the case, and ultimately whether the case will see trial. Now, talking a little bit about Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade, he was paid more than $650,000 by the District Attorney's Office for his work on the Trump case. That began all the way back in 2021. That is directly, according to county records. Trump's Georgia attorney, meanwhile, said that Willis has failed time and time again to, quote, provide full transparency in her response regarding the relationship, regarding the financial transactions. That was center focus for yesterday's hearing, was how the district attorney's office was using funds and how those funds and the spending of those funds played out throughout the timeline of Fani Willis and Nathan Wade's personal relationship. Take a listen to some of what she said.
You think I'm on trial? These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial. But I didn't give him money out in a contract. What happened? No, we're going to answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
And again, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis speaking out about the financial aspect of these allegations and questions about whether any ethical boundaries were crossed in the vacations that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade took together, in how district attorney funds were used, how taxpayer funds were used. That is what attorneys in this hearing are trying to prove. All the while, we talked to Atlanta attorney Josh Schiffer on what he thought of Thursday's hearing and how it could ultimately impact the disqualification decision. Take a listen.
Both her performance and Mr. Wade's were easily considered evasive. I don't believe they answered the questions forthrightly and straightforward in a way that you would expect from people charged with such an important job. And I think it will be very hard for Judge McAfee to ignore that when he considers whether to disqualify or not.
And again, taking you back out live to this courtroom as we are still waiting, now 10:16, for the return of Judge Scott McAfee and all parties that he said were missing from this evidence hearing. As soon as that last person really returns, we do expect that court will resume. I have been talking to our reporter, Rebecca Schramm, who you just heard from moments ago, standing outside of the Fulton County Courthouse, just weighing in on the moment right now that everyone's waiting for this hearing to get underway, to hear from that last person who heavily tied to and involved in Nathan Wade's divorce, and to ultimately speak on the relationship between Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis and the special prosecutor and any financial actions that have come out of that. I think, again, making sure that we clarify for you the center focus of these allegations from attorneys is the financial allegations. The attorneys arguing that the two took lavish vacations together and used Wade's salary from the district attorney's office in their relationship, misused taxpayer money, and crossed ethical boundaries. That is what attorneys today are going to be working tirelessly to prove to the judge. That is what Fani Willis and Nathan Wade have said is false and have refuted in their testimony yesterday. For those of you asking if Fani Willis will be returning to the stand, we did not see her in the courtroom earlier this morning. However, that is still to be seen. We We have heard from Judge Scott McAfee that he wants to focus today on the evidence side of all of this, that he wants to hear from the innermost circle for both the special prosecutor and district attorney. So it could very well be that the two are not heard from today, but that remains to be seen as we continue to hear evidence in what will ultimately be a very difficult decision for the judge presiding over this case, Judge Scott McAfee, to determine whether Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis should remain on a case like this or whether to move it along to another prosecutor. And again, still waiting for that final party to arrive into this courtroom. If you're with us earlier, we took you out to reporter Rebecca Schramm, who has been outside of this courthouse, following closely every development as we bring that to you. That last party, by the way, Terrence Bradley, whose testimony is being compelled by the Fulton County judge presiding over this case, Scott McAfee. Bradley declined earlier to answer any questions about the relationship between District Attorney Fani Willis and Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. Now he is being compelled. So it is a matter of getting him back into the courtroom to testify, to answer questions. Again, we heard a little bit from Terrence Bradley on Thursday that he said he'd been advised by the state bar to not testify about the couple's relationship. But the judge, of course, compelling him, not having that answer, and now it is a matter of waiting for Terrence Bradley to return to day 2 of this disqualification hearing, and we will expect to take you live out there as soon as court resumes. Now, earlier there was speculation that court would resume at about 10 o'clock after taking an abrupt recess just before 9:20 a.m. It is now 10:21, so really momentarily, any minute now, we can expect to take you back out live to this court hearing. However, it could be several more minutes. It really is anyone's guess on the arrival of Terrence Bradley. That is what we are following closely. We are standing outside of this courtroom, so as soon as we see him, we will let you know. And of course, as soon as we see Judge Scott McAfee again returning into this courtroom, you can expect we will bring you those live remarks and the resuming of this court proceeding and the hearing that will ultimately decide whether Fani Willis, Nathan Wade will remain on the investigation and the case pursuing former President Donald Trump on racketeering charges. Court again, remaining in recess. Willis has not been called back to testify for day 2 of the hearing, so it is unlikely she will appear. However, she could make an appearance. It is, again, anyone's guess, but she has not been called back for testimony. Earlier, at about 9:02, a little after 9, we did see former Georgia GOP Chair David Schaefer in attendance. We also saw former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin, former DeKalb County CEO Vernon Jones, Steve Sato, of course, in the courtroom representing former President Donald Trump, Ashley Merchant, who, as you heard from questioning Fani Willis throughout her testimony, the district attorney and the attorney, Ashley Merchant and John Merchant, presiding for Trump co-defendant Michael Roman. Again, a very fiery discussion, very passionate line of questioning, and Fani Willis's response. The attorneys, again, representing co-defendant Michael Roman, are really at the center of this. This stems from a motion filed on behalf of Michael Roman that ultimately alleged that Fani Willis and Nathan Wade had some sort of financial conflict of interest and misused taxpayer funds in their investigation into former President Donald Trump, leading today to this hearing to determine whether those allegations are true, whether the motion from Michael Roman's attorneys have merit, and in terms of how that will play out today, that is what Judge Scott McAfee said he is focused on, is the evidence in this case, in this hearing, I should say, is hearing out the testimonies and the evidence presented, and then ultimately making his decision after that. So many players in the courtroom today still waiting on that last person, Terrence Bradley, and his testimony, which has now been compelled by Fulton County Superior Judge Scott McAfee.
You want me to look at?
All right, and as we continue, court remaining in recess, but we just want to bring in some context, background, and continue this conversation as a lot of details have stemmed. I want to now bring in Atlanta News First reporter Adam Murphy. Adam, you have covered court proceedings, court hearings, this one being historic all on its own, but watching this from a journalistic perspective, from being in Atlanta for so long, I mean, what comes to your mind?
Stunning. I mean, like most people, I think, that saw the testimony yesterday, they were glued to it. I was glued to it. It was actually difficult to kind of do what I needed to do yesterday. I was working on a completely different story, but was just enamored by what was going on. I mean, this is really historic. I mean, it's historic in itself that a RICO case has been brought against a former president, and then now this, and this is just one big giant mess, quite honestly. I think it's really interesting that we heard the testimony, obviously, of the lead prosecutor, Nathan Wade, and then out of the blue, we weren't expecting the district attorney herself, Fani Willis, to actually come into the courtroom, but I think she was so disturbed and upset by some of the things that have been said, she just marched into the courtroom and took the stand, asked to take the stand. She came in, she was visibly upset, frustrated, somewhat at times, I think I would say a little bit defensive, but yet she wanted to make a point. And what's interesting about all of this is it's going to be a difficult decision for the judge. And I know the judge has said, well, we're not going to decide in the courtroom. I'm not going to come down with a ruling in the courtroom. But really what this all boils down to, it seems like, and there's a lot of, details about the personal relationship that, it became center stage, I think, with a lot of the testimony yesterday. But at the end of the day, this is really all about whether the money that they received, that Nathan Wade received, obviously, to do his job, was used for them to go on lavish trips. And what their story is between Nathan Wade and Fani Willis is that this money was reimbursed in cash. So what makes this interesting is there's really no proof. That's their story. They're sticking to it. One might argue, well, gosh, if you were in a relationship, you guys were going on these trips and you're prosecuting a former president, you would want to have some sort of receipts or documentation to show that you did reimburse money and there was no use of these tax dollars. But at the same time, we're talking about cash, and it's very possible that, she could have paid back the cash, and if she did pay back the cash, well, then it's this thing is not as big of a deal as one might think, and I think she continues with the case if that's true. But we just don't know. And that's what's so interesting about this, Maria. It's going to be a 50-50 call by the judge, I think, based on whether he believes their testimony.
It really is. I think we were talking to Atlanta attorney Josh Schiffer, who said this is going to be a difficult decision for Scott McAfee to make. But some of what's been playing out both yesterday and going into today really starts to paint a picture for you. And I want to answer some Atlanta News First YouTube comments that we're getting. By the way, if you are watching this, we are streaming out across all of our digital platforms. So we got Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV. Of course, you can join the conversation on YouTube Live. But some people were asking, what are we waiting on? It sounded like court was starting, and now we don't see anybody in the courtroom. Just to take you back out here, still very empty, as you can see. We are waiting on all, and this is Judge Scott McAfee's, words directly. We are waiting for all parties needed in this evidence hearing in day 2 of the disqualification hearing to arrive, and that last person still outstanding is Terrence Bradley, whose testimony is now being compelled after he said that he was advised by the State Bar of Georgia to not testify about the relationship of Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade and Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. The judge presiding over this case now saying, that's not good enough. You are now being compelled to appear and to testify and to answer questions as we continue to hear evidence in all of this. And that has really been the theme here is, getting an idea from the innermost circle of both Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, and getting an understanding of what their relationship was and the timeline in line with the accusations made by attorneys on the mishandling of taxpayer money and any ethical boundaries that were possibly crossed.
Well, Maria, also, too, you talk about what we're waiting on. Yeah, that's right. I mean, there was some anticipation that Fani Willis might actually return to the stand today. I was listening this morning to you here on ANF Plus and heard everything in the courtroom. They talked about the fact that the state had said no further questions. She wasn't coming back. And then it was a matter of this next witness arriving at the courthouse and coming in and testifying. And that individual was not there, so they've been waiting, and they went into recess. I think it was interesting, too. This may be a factor, and should be, I think, in the judge's overall decision here at the end of the day, and that is the former employee in the DA's office that testified, I believe, early on yesterday via Zoom, and talked about this relationship between Fani Willis and Nathan Wade. Her noticing a relationship of some sort taking place around the office, I believe dating back to 2019. Am I right about that, Maria?
I do believe in her response to the motion filed by attorneys for Michael Roman. She quoted 2021, but they might have had met back in 2019.
Yeah, I think that, you know, if you go back and listen to that, she talked about she felt like there was some relationship going on even prior to what the DA and the lead prosecutor had said about them, you know, having a relationship beginning around 2022. It's really critical because it's like we need to know whether, you know, there was some sort of preferential selection made by the district attorney with Nathan Wade based on their relationship. And so we have, you know, two different accounts there. So I think that, you know, these additional witnesses that may be able to kind of give us a better sense of how long this relationship had been going on and when it began will be very important for the judge to decide, because it's a big factor in the overall decision as well. So it's going to be, I'm sure, some more interesting testimony that we'll see throughout the day. It's just a holding process at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. And I just want to point out some of the interesting parties that were in attendance for this. You obviously are going to have the attorneys, the people who are testifying, but we also saw former Georgia GOP Chair David Schaefer. We saw former Atlanta Mayor Shirley Franklin, former DeKalb County CEO Vernon Jones. This has captured a lot of interest, of course, locally, but also on the national stage, as you see many of these characters. And I think we were talking to another attorney here in Atlanta, Suri Chada Jimenez, who said, it's just good TV.
It certainly is, you know, and it's the classic, although this is not like a criminal trial, you know, you think back to some of the big trials in history and people stop what they're doing and they watch, and it's fascinating. And this has caught the attention not just of residents in Fulton County, the state of Georgia, but across the country. And obviously with the use of social media platforms, it's everywhere. I mean, no matter where you go, the national network news, you know, is carrying this story, talking about it, dissecting it, and it's all over the social media platforms. It is the story across the country, and it's happening right here in Atlanta, Georgia, in a Fulton County courthouse.
So I got to ask you, you've been really Atlanta's favorite community journalist. You've covered so many stories here locally. There's a profound uniqueness to what we're following today, but does this spark any memories for you?
Well, I have to say this. Back in 2021, I believe it was, when Fani Willis was then running for district attorney, and we were still in the midst of COVID restrictions and things like that, I did an interview with her. And I did that via Zoom, and she was obviously, she's a politician, so she was running for this position in this seat. And she came across very sharp and kind of a bulldog, which is exactly what, you know, a district attorney needs to be. So I have to say, just from a personal standpoint, I'm a bit surprised by this turn of events in this particular case. I mean, this is, you know, no doubt in her career, really the biggest case. I mean, and it could be considered one of the biggest cases in American history against a former president. It's just unprecedented, right? So for this to all unfold was a stunner, and it's a stunner regardless. But just based on my interview with her and talking to her, I would have never imagined we'd be talking about this today, and this is where we are at. And I think what's interesting here, if she is disqualified, Maria, there's a number of things that could happen. It doesn't mean this case goes away. It could be turned over to the Attorney General, and the Attorney General could appoint another DA to take it on. It could then the judge could assign somebody else, I presume, as well, another district attorney. And, that could mean the case goes on. But then it also could mean that if another, district attorney gets a hold of it, they might say there is no case here, or there is no RICO case. Maybe there's a different way to go about it. But this is a significant hearing that is happening right now and can change the outcome of this case potentially. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, certainly. And I just want to play some of what we saw play out yesterday from the district attorney herself, some of her words and reactions to the line of questioning she was receiving during her testimony.
You think I'm on trial? These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial. But I didn't give him money out in a contract. What happened? No, we're going to answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
So again, some sharp responses and again, fiery testimony from Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis. We were all glued in here at the newsroom to all this. I mean, it was hard not to watch every single moment as it happened over the course of several hours. Just talking a little bit about her response. Of course, she is defending this allegation that she misused taxpayer funds, that she had crossed ethical boundaries in her relationship that she has acknowledged happened with Nathan Wade. But she is standing firm in saying that at no point was she unethical or had misused those funds. The only thing that had happened was that there was a personal relationship, which is not illegal or grounds in her mind for disqualification.
Well, this is, obviously has serious implications for the RICO case that her team, her DA squad is working on. But it's also this hearing, has an impact on her credibility. And so that's why I think, you see her coming into the courtroom like she did, and she's firm, and that is her style. I mean, like I said, going back to my interview with her before she took office when she was running for the seat, 2021, she was firm, she was feisty, in my words, she was a bulldog. And so she had that tone and that approach yesterday. Some might see it, though, as a bit defensive on certain things, but she is herself, and she was firm. And it was really kind of, in my opinion, a bit of a contrast to that of the lead prosecutor, Nathan Wade. I saw him a little bit differently than I saw her. I mean, I think, he, at times, just his body language and everything, he was, looked maybe a little more nervous. She seemed pretty confident. I don't know at the end of the day if that really matters. It's all about, the judge cares about the facts of the case, and is there evidence here that is worthy of disqualification and moving this case to another courtroom. And I think today will be instrumental in kind of helping the judge finalize those thoughts and make a decision.
And I do want to point out the judge has already come out and said, hey, don't expect that decision to come down today. He wants to hear evidence, but he has said himself at the very start of this and a little yesterday, he does not expect to come to a disqualification decision. And so the implications to come out of that, the question of who's going to be prosecuting former President Donald Trump and the 18 co-defendants in this RICO case. What Fani Willis's involvement will or won't look like, that remains to be seen, and that is an answer that we might not be getting today.
Yeah, and I think another thing that's really significant here too, depending on what happens with this hearing and whether the Fulton County DA's office continues on this case or not, you have to remember we have an election in November. We have a presidential election in November. And you'll recall DA Fani Willis talk about how she wanted to get this thing rolling and in historic proportions. I mean, she talked about having all these, 19 different co-defendants, right, in this RICO case, and she wanted to have all of them tried before the election. And this does not bode well at the moment for accomplishing that goal. And so if this case, if she's disqualified and it's moved somewhere else, the likelihood of this being tried before the November election is slim to none.
Well, let me ask you this. Hearing Nathan Wade's testimony, hearing Fani Willis, hearing some of their friends and innermost circle, what are you looking for out of today, or what do you expect will happen as really all of us tune in and nationally the country tunes in to this if just fiery and passionate testimony that's going to continue to play out now in the evidence portion of this disqualification hearing?
My feeling is it's like there needs to be a little more investigation into the money trail, because that's going to be the determining factor here. And right now, without a trail, and we're talking about the testimony yesterday from Mr. Wade and Mrs. Willis about reimbursing Mr. Wade in cash, there's no trail. And so I feel like we need some more evidence, a little more investigating into the payment part of it. I would say the judge would need that to make a thoughtful decision. And I think another part of it too is, how long was this relationship going on? Was it going on again? Do we believe it was going on prior to Mr. Wade being selected as the lead prosecutor? Now, there's been a lot of pushback from some saying, well, Mr. Wade has never tried. He was never, a lead prosecutor before and had never tried a felony case. And some, had concerns about that. And then all of a sudden he's dealing with perhaps the largest RICO case in our country's history. So it's, that date of that timeline of, the relationship beginning and, some more evidence, in my opinion, about the financial part of this is significant. And that's what I would be digging for. That's what I would be looking for. That's what I would be asking about.
And of course, we have a hardworking team of Atlanta News First reporters, our Doug Reardon and Rebecca Schramm, out there following this minute by minute. Our team here in the newsroom also keeping an eye.
I think, they need to follow the money. I believe he's a reporter. He's absolutely correct. They need to follow the money to see where the money is going to lead. It looks like they're about to come back to session. I believe maybe the other witness that they wanted to question is here. So that's probably why everybody's migrating to the courtroom. You guys, like I said, it would be interesting to see if they are actually, and I'm pretty sure that's why, I'm sorry that I'm everywhere, but I'm pretty sure this is where the defendants are heading, their attorneys are heading. They wanted to hone in on the money of cash apps, receipts of payments. I believe that's why they kept on asking these questions over and over again. So you don't have any proof of these funds. You always reimburse Mr. Wade in cash, never by check, never by cash app. And she was admitting that she paid Nathan's Wade attorney through Cash App. which I think that is slightly weird, because if you're paying an attorney through Cash App, for what reason? I'm kind of unclear of why would you have to pay him through Cash App if he's doing work for the state? Wouldn't that have to go through some type of work order or invoice? He should invoice your company and they reimburse him for the work or the hours worked. So I'm unclear about that one particular point. I'm also unclear about whether or not if they get down to the money and they find something that they need to look further into, will the judge allow them to keep on going down this rabbit hole? This could be a hearing that will last a whole month, and yesterday when they was questioning Nathan Wade, it led the door open for his ex-wife to be questioned, because Nathan Wade claimed that his reason why he served his wife, it was the only day she was in town, so he had to serve her that day. He said it was just a coincidence. I really find that hard to believe. You serve your wife the divorce papers a day after you sign a contract with Fani Willis, the woman that you allegedly is having an affair with. And I use the word affair is because they're sleeping with each other and he wasn't divorced yet. Anywho, they are going back to court. Court is in session.
Into this disqualification hearing.
Leah's still not with us in person. However, there's a proposal to potentially move on to other witnesses. Why don't we start with the state? Ms. Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, in order to be efficient with the court's time, we have a witness here and I'm prepared to take out of order, and it sounds as though there's no objection from the defense, so we can do that at the court's convenience.
We don't have any problem taking him out of order, but it's our understanding it's Governor Barnes and he's here to establish that he was the first choice of Ms. Willis, and she testified to that, so I think she's cumulative. I don't know why we can't call him to establish the fact it's already been established. We're not refuting that fact. We're impeach her on that fact.
Ms. Cross, I think did she say it was her first choice? Did she not say who was her first choice?
I think I don't believe that the governor's name was mentioned. I think there are some facts and circumstances surrounding the search for someone to take over the lead of this investigation at that time. Now prosecution is something that, given the allegations in the case, is certainly relevant.
All right, and it doesn't sound like it would be all that long a witness anyhow. All right, so in that case, we can transition over, and Ms. Cross, would like to call your witness.
Thank you. The state would call Governor Roy Barnes.
And Judge, just so I'm clear, so you had told us not to ask questions about qualifications, so we did not ask any of our witnesses about qualifications, so the state's now going to bring in evidence of that. We would just ask permission to now be able to go into that.
Sounds to me, well, Ms. Cross?
If you want to ask Governor Barnes about his qualifications, I mean, that's certainly something he'd have knowledge of. I don't know what his basis of knowledge for anyone else's qualifications might be, but I also don't think that opens the door to anything other than what my understanding of what the testimony is.
As I hear it, the issue of qualifications versus who was her first choice is going to be relevant to her intent, maybe, and perhaps that issue of the case in whole. I don't think that necessarily opens the door. We'll see how it goes.
I believe he's being brought up, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Cross, assuming this may be a 10 to 15 minute witness, does the state have other witnesses on deck that they'd like to go forward with as well?
Yes, we called to gather everyone we could, so we can go forward with another witness, I believe, after this one.
All right, appreciate it.
I do. Roy Eugene Barnes, Royeugene, Barnes, Barnes.
Say, good morning, Mr. Barnes. Can you tell the court a little bit about your background as it relates to your service in public service?
I was first elected to the state senate in 1974 from Cobb County, and I served 16 years there. And then in 1990, I ran for governor and was defeated. And 2 years later, I went back to the House of Representatives. I was elected to the House of Representatives and served 6 years until I was elected governor in 1998, and I served in that position until January of 2003.
And after serving in the position of governor, can you tell the court a little bit about what you transitioned into after your public service?
I did exactly what I was doing before I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my son-in-law. And now we have I think 6 or 7 lawyers. Charlie Bailey back there was one of them at one time.
Okay. And Governor Barnes, would you consider yourself to be a trial lawyer?
Yes.
Okay.
We don't write contracts or we don't write wills. All we do is try cases.
And I want to direct your attention back to 2021, where you were approached by the District Attorney of Fulton County, Fani Willis, about being a special prosecutor.
I was. I don't recall the exact date, but I know it was sometime in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office, and that I would not do that. And also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had the FBI to report a fella, a militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me. And because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said, no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told D.A. Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years, and I didn't like it. And I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
Ultimately, you turned down.
Yes. Yeah, I told her. I said, I'm not interested.
Nothing further from the state, Your Honor.
Ms. Merchant.
Morning, Governor Burns. How are
Morning.
you?
Just fine. How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You said it was sometime in 2021. Do you remember
I think
if it was early?
was. I don't remember the dates. They all go. I could look it up on my calendar at the office, but I don't have that.
Well, I want to ask you about some statements that Ms. Willis made March 28th, 2021. She was talking about assembling a team for this case. Are you familiar with her work assembling a team for this case?
Well, I assume that's what she was talking to me about. But besides that, I don't know.
And I know you had said you had a meeting with some folks, and Mr. Wade was at that meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So he was with the district attorney interviewing you about taking this case?
Well, of course, I know Nathan very well, as you do.
Yes.
I exchanged pleasantries with him, but the conversation was with Ms. Willis.
Okay, with Ms. Willis. Were you aware at the time that her team consisted of Brian Watkins, Megan Vargas, Sonia Allen, Shannon Trotty, Sal Chan, and John Floyd? She had reported that was her team on this case.
I know John Floyd was involved, and she probably told me the others, but listen, I barely remember what case I tried last year, much less every word that was said in the conversation.
I understand, fair enough. But she said she was looking to hire more lawyers and investigators to work on this case?
She told me, it was to me, she said, would you be interested in being special prosecutor in this case? And I gave the reply that I've already known. I mean, about hiring other lawyers or whatever, I don't know. All I can testify to is what she told me.
Did she tell you at all why she wanted to hire special counsel and not use someone who was an ADA, not have an actual employee?
No, she did not. I mean, we did not discuss that, but I would assume it was because in a case as big as this that you'd have to have some assistant help. I know John Floyd has been in some cases over the years out in Cobb County, for example, and others.
Would you agree that an employee of her office, someone who was paid a state salary or a county salary as an ADA, could handle a case like this?
I couldn't tell you that unless I knew the person, knew their experience, and really had been with them in a courtroom.
All right.
Has an opinion on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Say no.
Hello, Mr. Sathow.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I hope you're well.
I'm doing fine, just getting older, but that beats all time.
That's true, but that applies to all of us, I believe.
Yes.
I think you indicated that if you had your calendar, you'd be able to pinpoint a date for us.
I would.
Is there a way for you, for example, at a break, before you actually leave, to contact your folks to see if you can get a date?
I guess I could. I don't know how far back we archived those, but I assume I could.
Would you be willing to give that a shot for us?
I mean, I'll do whatever the court instructs.
So if I ask the court and the court says, go ahead and you could do it, that's all right?
I'll do whatever the court instructs.
I hear you.
And you should too.
I try to live by those words. I'm not always successful, but I try. If I pinpoint a date, for example, I think the record is clear that Mr. Wade was hired for the position on November 1 of 2021. Does that help you at all?
No, it does not.
Okay. Then let's go to the meeting. It sounds like it was just one meeting.
Yes.
And could you tell us where that meeting took place, if you
It
remember?
was in the conference room adjacent to the district attorney's office.
So was it in this, or the adjoining building?
It was in the Lewis Slayton building.
And District Attorney Willis was there, obviously, right?
Yes. Yes.
And Mr. Wade was there?
The best I recall, now I could be mistaken about that, it's like anything that far away, but that's my recollection.
Do you have a recollection of anyone else being present?
Yeah, there were some other folks, but I don't remember.
Do you remember, were you introduced to Mr. Wade by anything other than you already knew him? Was he given a title or anything? So at least as you're there, if I heard you correctly, Miss Willis did all the talking, Mr. Wade did not.
I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, but as far as the basis of the conversation, the reason I was there, Ms. Willis did the talk.
And would you be able to give us an estimate how long this meeting lasted?
Probably,
just rough.
Probably an hour.
And during the meeting, you made it clear, but it was the thanks for the offer, but no thank you.
Oh, yes, I did. As I
who is now on the witness stand taking questions in the Fani Willis disqualification hearing at the Fulton County Courthouse. The former governor is there because apparently he was asked by Fani Willis, the DA, to be the lead prosecutor. He declined. That's a job that eventually went to Nathan Wade and leads us to where we are today. So we're going to continue streaming this coverage of this hearing live in its entirety on ANF Plus. You can find ANF Plus streaming through Roku TV, Apple TV Plus, and YouTube, or anywhere else you stream. Again, this hearing is airing live in its entirety right now on our various streaming platforms, and we'll have a complete wrap-up of the hearing coming up on the Atlanta News First News at noon. We'll see you then.
Syria one time for beheading a client of mine, recovered $82 million. I guess that's the best high profile, but that was in D.C. I tried that up in D.C.
And what would be considered complex cases, you've handled those as well, correct?
Yes. I mean, we regularly do mass torts, class actions, business torts, breach of contract, and most of those are complex, requiring many experts. We also do malpractice. I did malpractice defense for about 25 years, but since I've returned from the governor's office, I try not to represent an insurance company anymore, and I just tried a malpractice case before Judge Edlin in November. And those are complex cases because of the type of, medical knowledge and that you have to have, and also because of the many experts that you have.
Thank you. Did Ms. Willis, and this is the last question, did Ms. Willis tell you why she had sought you, why you had been her choice?
No, I hadn't, but, I get consulted fairly often on major cases.
Would you believe, based on circumstances in which you were given the offer, that it had to do with the fact that you had handled complex and high-profile cases in the past?
It could have been. I know her very well. I tried a case against her. She worked for the JQC, and I represented Judge Robert Crawford, Mac Crawford, and she prosecuted him, and I defended him. She beat me at the trial. I turned it around at the Supreme Court.
So you had some experience with
her? I had plenty of experience with him. She's a very qualified young, well, everybody's young to me, but she's a very qualified young woman.
After that one occasion, did you have any other contact with her in reference to the position itself or who she might be considering?
I had some conversations with her or Jeff DeSantis or some of those, but not really an in-depth, about who she should hire or anything like that.
Did the name Nathan Wade come up in those conversations with her? No, right?
No. Nathan was there, I thought. Now, I could be mistaken, but I thought Nathan was there when I...
For the conference?
Think Nathan was... I'm not positive Nathan was there when I met with him.
Right, and my question was probably poorly worded, but what I was asking is after the conference and whatever consulting you might have done,
yes,
did Ms. Willis or Mr. DeSantis bring up the name Nathan Wade as a special prosecutor?
I don't think so. I don't recall one. I mean, Nathan is a good organizer. Nathan can organize stuff. I've watched him over the years. So I wasn't surprised that he was acting as a special prosecutor.
And Mr. DeSantis, for the record, who was that? Jeff DeSantis?
Jeff DeSantis.
Do you know who he is?
Oh, yes.
Could you tell us who he is for the record?
Jeff works in the DA's office. I knew him when he worked for Thurber Baker.
Do you know what his role in the DA's office is?
I have no earthly idea.
Is he in media? Does that sound familiar?
He has done media in the past. Jeff has generally been, I like Jeff, and I'm very close to him, but he's generally been on the other side of my campaigns.
All right, so we're talking, the best of your recollection, conference, we don't have the date, I'm asking if you could possibly get it, but the conference you have, Mr. Wade could have been there.
Yes, I'm almost sure he was there.
And Ms. Willis, obviously, and Mr. DeSantis was there.
I think Mr. DeSantis was too.
And as far as whether there was anyone else there, you don't have a present recollection?
No.
Okay,
Next time I'll take a picture so I'll have an exact.
Next time, hopefully, you won't have to be here.
Well, hopefully not.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Mr. Stockton?
No questions, Governor.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. McDougall?
No questions for the governor, Your Honor.
Mr. Rice?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gillen?
I've been waiting for this.
I couldn't give up the chance getting up here, Governor. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Craig.
We've done some work in the past together, haven't we?
I consider you to be one of my best friends and a crackerjack lawyer.
Well, I will say to you on the record that I can understand why they came to see you because you're the finest lawyer that I've ever worked with.
Thank you. I need to put you in the next day.
Yeah, there you go. We'll get that. But one or two more questions.
Okay.
You and I working together when it's appropriate. We've had no qualms about filing motions to disqualify the DA, have we?
No.
Matter of fact, you and I successfully disqualified the DA out in Cobb County in the Brown case, didn't we?
We did.
So whatever needs to be done should be done.
Represent your client.
You got that. Thank you so much.
Mr. Couture, are you still with us by Zoom?
I am, Your Honor.
All right. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Cromwell for Ms. Latham?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any redirect, Mr. Abadi?
I got it.
Can this witness be excused?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, is there a way that we could potentially ask through you for that date if you can get it?
The question is, you want the exact date that the meeting occurred?
Yes, if we can get that.
And I'm wondering if we can, if it's really material, the exact date rather than just its proximity to the November 1st hiring. Is that fair? If he knows whether it was far earlier in the year versus maybe closer, would that obviate the need for the exact date?
If you can't get the exact date, of course, we'll take the best we can get.
Okay, let's start there.
All right. Let me
think, well, you may take care of it for us just if we hold in place here.
I'm not sure of this.
Well, let me try this first, Governor Barnes, before you do a deep dive in the email there. Do you recall what time of year it was when this meeting occurred?
I'm afraid not.
Okay.
I mean, you know how this is. The cases and the days moved together. I had a fellow a few years ago that said I represented him in 1978, and I told him I'd take his word for it.
Now, you wouldn't, I got to ask, you wouldn't do that if it was a question of him saying he just paid you.
No, I would not. I will tell you, I believe lawyers should be well paid, Mr. Senator.
All right, so sir, is that something
I'll have to look. It didn't come up right.
Okay. All right, we'll ask this witness to step down subject to recall. And that might be something the state can present with stipulation as well. All right, thank you, sir. Do we have an update on Mr. Bradley?
Lawyer. His lawyer should be here. He's probably outside on stage.
The last estimation I heard was about 11:30.
Okay. If that's still the case, then Ms. Cross, did you have another witness available?
But having brought over, it's Mr. John Floyd, not the special prosecutor John Floyd. John Floyd, Mr. Attorney Willis' father.
Okay. And is he heading this way?
Yes.
All right.
Just before they get the other witness to the stand, I'm assuming it's Fani Willis dead. I think now the governor, the ex-governor that they called to the witness stand, that is the prosecutor witness. And to me, that only further proves Nathan Wade is totally not qualified to handle this RICO case. I mean, why would you call a person that she was looking into handling this case and his credentials versus Nathan Wade's credentials is totally different? I mean, for Christ's sakes, he's been a lawyer for umpteen years, and he's been the governor. He served in the Senate, in Congress. So that only further proves that Nathan Wade was not qualified. Now, the governor, the ex-governor, said that Nathan Wade is a great organizer. So he said, and maybe special prosecutor is the meaning of special prosecutor is that's the title that they give to manage the workflow or whatever of responsibility. So maybe that's his title and his job, but does that warrant for him to get paid $250 an hour? So for them to call the governor, I think it was very damaging to their case. It's only proven that Michael Roman's attorney case. You guys put it in chat. Let me know what you think. I just thought that was an odd person to call. I wouldn't have called a witness to the stand that had far greater, more credentials than Nathan Wade. You know, if you want to prove that somebody wasn't hired because I was getting some favors, sexual favors out of that person, you would call a witness and they should have asked him, hey, do you think Nathan Wade has the experience to prosecute or to take on this trial? And the governor could have answered, well, you know, based on what I know, you know, and gave an answer. Based on what I know about Nathan Wade, he could have gave an answer. So, like I said, them calling him to the stand, I think it further disproves or further proves that Nathan Wade shouldn't even be there, shouldn't be making $250 an hour.
Expectation of what this afternoon is going to look like. I was never informed of a medical appointment, and I think the notice in this hearing indicated it would last at least 2 days. So right now, I think he's in violation of his subpoena.
Your Honor, I believe in the counselor's note giving notice of his doctor's appointment. He missed one yesterday. He took a stand yesterday and he was hoping to be with his testimony yesterday. I stayed here all day. This appointment started at 9, and it's out of his control with regards to, again, the issues involved with it, as well as
I'm just trying to get more. I mean, we initially been told maybe it was going to be 9:30 and 10. Do we have any better idea to get a realistic expectation of when we think we can have him here?
If it's Your Honor's wish, just tell him to come on in. We have to go back to this morning.
Is he, you know, without getting too much into the particulars, has he already been seen by the doctor and he's waiting for results, or is he still waiting to be seen by a doctor? I'm just, you know.
Both. He's been consulting with the doctor, and they're waiting for it.
And after he gets those results, he was supposed to have another meeting with them today as well. But potentially that meeting could occur later.
After they're able to figure out the purpose of the actual appointment.
Okay. if you can get any kind of an update on how much time they think that those results are going to take. If it's more than an hour or two, I think we would want to start bringing him here, and he can have that follow-up consultation later. All right, thank you, sir.
Did Your Honor want to take up the 1.6 motion?
At this point, I think we've got something else that can occupy our time, and I think we need to move forward with that. All right. Of course. Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't learn about the equipment.
Right. Okay. Understood. Ms. Cross.
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Abate will,
Mr. John Floyd.
Mr. Floyd, if you could have a seat, sir.
may I approach the witness quickly?
Thank you. I do.
Please state the spell your full name for the court.
My name is John Clifford Floyd III.
Say, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell the court, are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
And prior to being retired, can you tell the court a little bit about, did you work in the legal career? Were you a lawyer?
I was an attorney. I practiced law. I've probably tried 1,000 cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law. And the rest was whatever walked through the front door could pay for it.
Okay. And
Could we wait 1 second? The governor's come back. He might
I do. My calendar shows it was October 26, 2021.
All right. And would defense counsel accept it as a stipulation, or is there any follow-up questioning needed on that? Mr. Barnes is still considered under oath on this point. All right. I would look for a show of hands or for someone to speak now on Zoom, and hearing none. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
And sir, can you tell the court, are you from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I spent most of my legal career, I would say, in Washington, D.C. was kind of the circle, but I've tried cases all over the country, and I tried the longest. I was the first lawyer to try an international criminal court. I was with the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. I was in trial there for 4.5 years in Arusha, Tanzania, and Hague in the Netherlands.
Okay. And when you weren't there, it sounds like your kind of center of gravity was Washington, D.C.
Correct, but I've tried cases in West Virginia, Maryland, Florida, California.
All over.
Yes.
And do you, sir, can you tell the court, do you have any children?
I have one daughter, Fani Willis.
Okay. And I want to direct your attention back to 2019, okay?
Yes.
Back in 2019, can you tell the court, did you move here to Atlanta?
I was living in Johannesburg, South Africa. And unfortunately, for some reasons, I could not get an extended visa. When I retired from the practice of law in 2018, I moved to South Africa. And I had to leave South Africa, and I did then come to Atlanta.
Okay, and do you, sir, remember about the time period in 2019 when you moved in with your daughter here in Atlanta?
It would have been the spring or summer of 2019.
And after you moved here, did you get a driver's license to kind of confirm your residency in Atlanta?
Well, my driver's license for the District of Columbia was going to expire on my birthday, which is in October. And yes, I did get a license here in the state of Georgia.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Good.
But if you will just take a look at what's been marked as Stacey's.
Okay, Your Honor, would you, if you don't mind, my eyes are very bad, which is one of the reasons I retired, and so I need a magnifying glass, so I'll be constantly playing. Thank you. Yes, I see it was issued on
9/28/2019.
Okay. So before we get there, do you recognize State's Exhibit 2?
Yes, just my driver's license.
And is State's Exhibit 2 a fair and accurate copy of your physical driver's license?
Absolutely.
This time, Your Honor, the state would tender what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2 into evidence.
Seeing no other objections, it's submitted. State's Exhibit 2 is submitted for the record.
Now, and for the record, Your Honor, the state is going to supplement State's Exhibit 2 with a redacted copy of the license. The current copy is not redacted with the address and things of that nature.
All right, and do we need to mark that differently in any way?
I will mark it as State's Exhibit 2A.
Perfect.
Now, you talked about when your driver's license was issued. Can you tell the court when was that driver's license here, your Georgia driver's license issued?
It was on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so September 28, 2019. Now, when you moved into District Attorney Willis's home, who lived there?
Well, my daughter lived there. I lived there, and from time to time, my grandchildren would come.
Okay, and did your grandchildren, were they at school coming and going?
Exactly. I think they were in school in various jurisdictions.
And during the time, how long did you live at or with Miss Willison at her home here in Fulton County?
She was forced to move after she was elected. I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, but that, Your Honor, if Your Honor will indulge me. After she was sworn in on January 1 of 2021, and on or about the 3rd of February, at probably 5:30 a.m. in the morning, there were people outside her house cursing and yelling and calling her the B word and the N word, and it was bizarre. Okay, it just.
Sorry. Pause, sir. Mr. Urbani. Here's the objection to you.
I would say it's effect on listener. He was present while all of these things were occurring, but I can.
No, that's. And he's saying he was personally present to hear these things?
Yes.
Okay, overruled.
Okay, and fortunately, the neighbors called the police and disbanded the group, and it was just, I hadn't seen anything exactly like it before.
Okay, and after that happened, can you tell the court did Miss Willis have to move from her home?
Yes, she was forced to leave.
Okay, and can you tell the court after she was forced to leave, shortly after she was sworn in, did you remain at her home in Fulton County?
Yes, I stayed there really until 2022, I guess.
And from what you described, did you fear for her safety?
Absolutely. Not only did I do that, the South Fulton police, they brought somebody, a man with a dog, because there have been so many death threats. And they said they were going to blow up the house. They were going to kill her. They were going to kill me. They were going to kill my grandchildren. On and on and on. It just, it became, and I was concerned for her safety.
And after those concerns came to your attention, and after what you heard and saw that day, you remained at the house?
Yes.
And can you tell the court, with what you just described, why did you remain living at the district attorney's home here in Fulton County?
Mr. Bond.
I believe it's relevant based on a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday of Ms. Willis as to about the security threat and the fact that it was implied that those threats were not necessarily real in the sense that Mr. Floyd remained in the home. There were many questions about the fact that he remained and her children could still come and go to the house. I think it's relevant based to the testimony that was elicited from defense counsels yesterday.
Overruled.
Well, these South Fulton police, first they put a car in front of the house that was there permanently, a police car. That was thing one. Thing two, they brought a person with a dog sometimes more than once a day, twice a day, and they would circle the house to look for bombs. I knew that was a house that my daughter had worked for. It was a brand new house. She's the only one who had ever lived there. It's a 4-bedroom, brand new house, and somebody needed to protect the house, and I stayed there to basically take care of the house, to take care of the yard, to take care of that. Also, somebody sprayed, again, the B word and the N word on the house, and I don't think my daughter even knew that. I cleaned it off and called the police, and South Fulton Police, they have, I'm sure, all the records of all the things that happened. And all of the neighbors, I notified all the neighbors to look out and to watch out. And it was so crazy. I mean, it was just so crazy. We'd have people would show up and park car. There was a guy parked for probably 8 hours out in front of the house. It was just, and we'd call the police and,
Now, at the time that you lived there with Ms. Willis, and I guess even when you remained, so during the time period of 2019 to the end of 2020, are you aware if Ms. Willis was dating someone?
Yeah, she did. She had a boyfriend when I first got there.
And did you meet her boyfriend?
Yeah, I met him often.
Okay, and did you know him by any specific nickname?
Yeah, Deuce.
Okay, and can you tell the court while you were living there, how often would you see him?
Sometimes every day, sometimes, every other day. He was a disc jockey or something, and he had all this paraphernalia that I'd have to move out. There was a thing with the keyboard, things that play music and so forth. So
now, when you moved in 2019, and then throughout the years in year 2020, 2021, had you ever met someone named Nathan Wade?
I did not meet Nathan Wade until 2023, about a year ago, when a reporter by the name of Issakoff interviewed me. I met him. That was the first time I had met him.
You said that was in 2023?
2023, right.
And I know you said you hadn't met him until 2023, but when you were living at Ms. Willis's house in Fulton County, did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever see Mr. Wade at Ms. Willis's Fulton County house in the year 2021?
Never.
And is it your testimony that the only time or the first time that you met Mr. Wade was in 2023?
Let me say something. Mr. Wade said that he remembers seeing me, and I do remember some banter. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and there's kind of this thing that goes on between fraternities, and Mr. Wade is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and I do remember there was some kind of banter when my daughter was sworn in to be district attorney between me and a couple of guys, and he said he remembers me. I don't remember him.
And prior to that experience that you're talking about, as well as, I guess, your official meeting in 2023, had you ever even heard his name?
No, never.
I don't think I have any further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Merchant.
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Fine. How are you, counsel?
Good, thank you. Just got a couple questions. On Monday, we heard you were in California. Do you have a place in California?
People always ask me about where do I live. I guess I live right here, sitting in this seat right now. But yes, the answer is I have a place in Los Angeles.
Okay, you do. All right. So, do you share time or split time between Los Angeles and Georgia?
Actually, I'm working on a documentary film, and I'm supposed to be being filmed not for this trial, but I'm supposed to be being filmed right now. It was planned, and we had to stop it because they asked me to come here. But the answer is I'm working on a documentary, and I'll be in California until I finish the documentary if we don't have another actor strike and we don't have another writer strike.
So do you own property in California?
No, I don't. I live with a friend of mine.
Live with a friend of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first move? Well, let me qualify with the dates. Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit, I was just paralyzed. I couldn't go any place. I couldn't go anything. I mean, I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week. But when COVID hit, I just couldn't. I couldn't go to the dentist, which I need to do. Or, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was asking about 2019. In 2019, did you spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay, so let's walk through 2019 then. You said you moved here in September. So
no, I didn't say that. I moved here probably prior to September. In September is when I got the driver's license. I probably moved in the springtime.
I'm sorry, you did. You said spring, summer. I see that in my notes. So spring, summer 2019 is when you moved here. So up until spring, summer 2019, where did you live?
I lived in Johannesburg. Well, I lived in Washington, D.C., 2018. I had planned to retire for the rest of my life in South Africa. I had worked for Nelson Mandela and the Freeman Mandela and get that. And someone I'd gone to law school, he had located there after Mandela was freed from prison and became president. I was going to live there for the rest of my life, but unfortunately, because of political reasons, I could not stay in South Africa, and I was forced, in a sense, to come back to the United States.
Okay, so let's just focus in on the period from, let's just start with October 2019, okay? We'll call that the relevant period. October 2019 until the end of 2019. Were you in Georgia every single day of that year?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now let's move to 2020, okay? And every single day, before I move on, every single day in 2019, you slept at your daughter's house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's start in 2020, all right? So 2020, the entire year, did you travel anywhere?
No.
Okay. You didn't travel at all that year?
No.
So,
and I didn't go to the movies, which upset me also.
So that entire year, 2020, you remained here in Georgia?
Right.
Okay. In 2021, did you do any traveling?
No.
So when did you move back, or when did you start this documentary film in Los Angeles?
What I had been doing to occupy time is I was writing my own memoir. As I delved into my family background, I discovered something, and that's what got me to working on the documentary. So I want you to understand what was going on in my life. I pitched I have a movie script called Bad Blood. I have a movie script trying to sell. So I tried to sell that, and I just happened to mention something that happened during the civil rights movement. SNCC, it's called the SNCC 5. The legendary Peter Fitzsimmons was interested, and so with Peter Fitzsimmons and Leah Smith, we're now doing the documentary. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I was asking was when you moved to Los Angeles, not what you moved there for.
Well, you keep saying moved. I haven't moved to Los Angeles. I spent more time in California, in Oakland, if you really want to just be, because Peter is basically San Francisco based. So we're working on the documentary.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles because I was going to the Pan-African Film Festival. And that's why we were there. And the way Hollywood works is, when you make connections, and film festivals are a place to try to sell ideas and meet people and organize things.
You still own property in Washington, D.C., correct?
No, I don't.
You don't own property at 1467 Roxana Road, Northwest?
That's where I used to live.
That's where you used to live. Did you own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And you owned that property when you moved here in 2019?
Yes.
And you owned it in 2020, correct?
Well, you talk about a very complicated issue. I left the property. There was a dispute between me and I had gotten a reverse mortgage company, and there was a dispute between me and that, and I just I walked away from it.
Okay. You walked away from it with almost $300,000.
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Where he lived and registered to vote. That's what they brought in. So that's.
Why is the money he got from the sale relevant at all?
It's the only proof I have of that he owned that address. So I can move on though. Right. Okay. When did you sell that property?
I didn't. The reverse mortgage company took it.
Oh, okay. So in 2019, when you got your driver's license here,
yes.
The next day you registered to vote, correct?
I think it may have been the same day, but maybe it was the next day. I don't remember.
But you didn't own property here in Georgia that day?
No, I was living with my daughter.
Okay. You said that you met Mr. Wade, that you remember you met in 2023, right? That was the first time you
Correct.
remember? Okay. And I wasn't really clear. You said something about meeting him. Was it with Mr. Isikoff, or did Mr. Isikoff tell you?
No, I was being interviewed by Mr. Isikoff.
Okay.
And he walked in, and I met him. That was the first time. He walked into the office. And
where were you being interviewed?
at the district attorney's office.
And Mr. Wade walked into that interview?
Yes.
And so Ms. Willis had not told you about Mr. Wade prior to that?
Absolutely not.
So she didn't tell you anything about their relationship before you met him that day?
No.
But Mr. Wade remembers meeting you in 2020?
He said that at my daughter's swearing in. I do remember that we having some banner about fraternities, but other than that.
Oh, at your daughter's swearing in, okay.
Right.
That's all I have. Just one moment, Judge. Nothing else. Thank you.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, counsel?
I'm fine. I'll try to ask you some specific questions if we could, okay?
And I'll give specific answers if I can.
Perfect.
Okay.
The driver's license address, I'm not going to publish. That is State's Exhibit number 2. But is the address on that driver's license the home that you're referring to as your daughter's in South Fulton?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was unclear to me, maybe no one else, but it's unclear to me, when did you stop living at what I would call your daughter's home in South Fulton?
Things got so bad and threats got so many, even against me, that the house became basically uninhabitable. I got tired of sleeping in one room one day and one that. I would say December of 2022, something like that.
December of 2022.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
Now, let me change and go back for another date. You had indicated, and I didn't hear it, when was your daughter, Miss Willis, when was she sworn in as district attorney?
On January 1, 2021.
Okay. And did you indicate that there was an incident, and I know you've described it, was that incident on February the 3rd, 2021?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. So my question then is, after February 3rd of 2021, how much longer did Miss Willis stay at the house before she moved somewhere else?
Very short period of time, and I cannot be precise, but I would bet all the money I ever made, it wasn't more than a month and a half, if that long.
Okay, so we're talking about, best of your recollection, end of February into the beginning of March, give or take, of 2021, when Miss Willis would have moved to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. And did Miss Willis return to the house, that is, the house that you were in, at any point in time that you can remember?
From time to time, she and her security might show up for her to pick something up or take something or something, but she always would come with her security.
Okay, my question was poorly worded, I apologize. Did she come back permanently to her house?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay,
absolutely not.
So as far as you're aware, that once Miss Willis left the house, her house, South Fulton House, so the record's clear, in either late February or into March of 2021, best of your recollection, she's not returned to that home to live.
No, it became uninhabitable. I mean, it just, I mean,
that's okay.
I would have to walk around that house looking out of every window. I made a habit of having to walk around the whole house. I got lights so that if somebody would come at night in the back, so that those kinds of reflecting lights, I had those put up.
I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
All I was interested in is whether she had ever returned.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Now, when Miss Willis, when your daughter left the home, time period, end of February, beginning of March, give or take, 2021, do you know where she moved to?
No, and I didn't want to know. I intentionally did not want to know, because I was not, if somebody stuck a gun to my head and I could tell them, I wasn't going to tell them anyway, or I'd have made up something, but I didn't want to know.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that if you didn't want to know, you never visited her at the place that she moved to?
Oh, I never did.
Never did?
Never did.
Okay. Do you know how long she stayed at the first place that she went to after she left her house before she moved to a second place?
What I know, and this is hearsay, counsel, is that my daughter has had to move something like 4 times.
But do you know any potential?
No, I don't know any place. I was taken one time for Christmas Day. I've only seen my daughter, and this is very hard for me to say, but during the period my daughter left, I've only seen my daughter 13 times, because I can't, and we've never seen each other more than maybe 3 hours because of, the nightmare threats against her and me.
And I understand that, and from the perspective of being a father myself, I understand what that means. So I'm going to move away from that. I was just trying to get an idea of date-wise, okay? So let me try to get one more date. In 2023, when you were being interviewed by one of the gentlemen that wrote the book at the DA's office, and Mr. Wade came in, can you give us, other than 2023, what the date would be?
I'm sorry, I can't, counsel.
How about spring, summer, any idea?
I would guess spring or summer, but I can't. Okay. I don't. I'm sorry.
And you've already indicated, at least to your recollection, that was the first time that you'd met Mr. Wade.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you about that. I want to go to Miss Willis's boyfriend that you referenced. Okay, you met Miss Willis's boyfriend, as you've characterized it, when you came here in 2019.
Correct.
And you met him on one occasion, several occasions?
Oh, no, I saw him often.
Oh, so you mean there was no secret that she was dating this man?
Not from me.
Not from you.
And he was a disc jockey of some kind. I think he had a government job during the day. I don't know what it was, but apparently he would do weddings and so forth and so on. He was a disc jockey, play music. So he had all his stuff was always in the way, and I was always having to try to push it aside. And anyway.
But Ms. Willis, your daughter didn't keep him from you, correct?
No.
No, I mean, there was no doubt
I mean, we lived in, my daughter and I lived in the same house. I mean, he came and went,
Right. Now, when did you learn that your daughter had a romantic, personal relationship with Mr. Wade?
Well, about 7 weeks ago, when as a matter of fact, I just found out when other folks found out. Okay.
That is, your daughter, as I understand it, never told you one time in the year of 2022 that she was dating Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
And until recently, you didn't know from anyone, including your daughter, that She dated Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
That is, whatever the relationship is between father and daughter, she kept that a secret from you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to know. Mr. Stockton.
No.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Floyd. Correct.
Good morning, Counsel.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, no. See, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I trained, you always keep some cash, because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just, if I might, Your Honor, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani, and myself was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. And I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions. So some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her always keep some cash.
So is that a yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's all I got, Judge.
Mr. Durham.
No questions.
Mr. McDougald.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Rice.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gillen.
It's still morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Counsel. How are you?
Just fine. Just a few questions following up. When you were talking about when you learned about Mr. Wade and your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Now, did your daughter tell you in around October of 2022 that she had gone on a Caribbean cruise with Mr. Wade to the Bahamas?
The answer is I knew that my daughter had gone, but I did not know who she went with or what the circumstances were. So I knew that she had gone out of town, but I didn't know with whom.
I see. And did she tell you in November of 2022 that she had gone to Aruba and stayed at the Hyatt Regency Resort there in Aruba for 3 days with Mr. Wade? Did she tell you that?
The answer was, again, I knew she went out of town. I didn't even know where she went. I knew she was going out of town. She told me she was going out of town. I think she might have said she was going out of the country or something. She'd be gone. But other than that, that was all.
Okay. And did she tell you in March of 2023 that she was going to Belize for several days with Mr. Wade?
The same answer, that I knew she would tell me she was going out of town, and she may or may not have told me where she was going, but she'd be gone for a couple of days.
Okay. Now, in 2023, you were in many days you would be out in California, correct?
Some days I'd be in California, correct.
Okay. Well, did she tell you in May of 2023
that she was traveling to Napa Valley with Mr. Wade, so maybe y'all could see each other when she visited California with Mr. Wade?
The answer is no.
And so the first time that you ever met Mr. Wade or learned about Mr. Wade, to your recollection, was in 2023?
That's correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Kucherov, on Zoom.
Yes, Ron, just a couple quick questions. Good morning, sir. I know I can't see you.
I can't see you either, but
we can take a moment.
Good morning, Counsel.
We can take a moment. Let's just pause, see if we can change the screens to show Mr. Kucherov. Sorry.
Your Honor, I'm on a phone, so it's kind of difficult.
Can you turn your screen on, though?
I'm trying to. Does that work?
Just to hold one more moment? All right, there we go. You can proceed, Mr. Kucherov.
Sir, you seem to know about the issue of cash in this transaction. You said it was a black thing. How did you know that the cash was going to be an issue in this testimony?
Because I was asked for it, and I was prepped by the lawyers, and they asked me about it. What else?
And did you speak with Mr. Wade about your testimony?
No.
Did you speak with your daughter about your testimony?
She may have been present when the lawyers were. I really don't remember.
If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
What do you? Maybe I'm not understanding your question, Counsel. So maybe you want to restate. What is it that you're asking me?
Yeah, if it wasn't clear, I can re-ask the question. I'll rephrase it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Mr. Wade.
Do.
If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
I did not know that they were dating. And when were you talking about the cash? I didn't know that. I don't know what you're asking me. What I told my child from the time she was a child is always have some money. Always have some money. If you go on a date so that people don't try to stick you and you want to leave whoever, always keep some cash, okay?
Mr. Floyd, you answered the question that the attorneys prepped you for that, so that's all I wanted to know.
Anything else, Mr. Kucherov?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cromwell.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Abadi?
Your Honor. Mr. Floyd, now, it wasn't common for your daughter to confide in you about her romantic life at all.
No, and I haven't confided in her about mine before when I had one, okay?
And you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey.
Hey, Debs.
An objection?
I think that might have just been still off mute.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey, had you not been living with her, correct?
That's correct.
I'll allow overruled.
I have nothing further.
Did he answer the question?
He said that's correct.
All right, by show of hands, any redirect on those points only. Ms. Merchant.
Yes. I just want to know when you were prepped by the lawyers, when this prep session was.
I just got off the plane on, what was it, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watch any news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. You can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and I listen to conservative radio a lot, and, you know, last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
So you were aware of what the testimony your daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah, unless you don't cut the radio on, unless you don't cut the television on, unless you don't read the AJC or any other, the New York Times or whatever, which I do every day, yeah, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right, and I'm not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
All right, anything else? Seeing and hearing none, thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to appear in front of you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Cross, let me check in. Was the state planning to call additional witnesses?
Not at this time, Your Honor. We're again trying to accommodate if there's a lapse in schedule to be able to this afternoon. But right now, that was our last witness.
Okay, so even if Mr. Bradley testifies to some extent, it's still the potential that the state has no further witnesses?
I anticipate at least one more will be available this afternoon, but that would be it.
Okay, so there are potentially more state's witnesses. All right.
Judge, before we move on, I'd move to strike the last witness's testimony. Violation of the rules.
All right, so I think the rule is invoked and the instruction was for the parties to tell all witnesses subpoenaed are expected to appear about the rule. I don't think the remedy is necessarily striking. I think it can go also to this credibility as well. So to that extent, unless Ms. Cross, you want something else to be heard on that, point is made. All right. Do we have an update for Mr. Bradley?
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, he should be here at 12:20, 12:25.
Okay. Then what I think we should do is have these preliminary conversations about privilege, see if we can make any headway, and then take our afternoon break. So to that end, counselors, I don't know if you just want to argue in place there or go to the table, whatever makes you comfortable. But Mr. Chopra, I think maybe it was relayed to you since you weren't in the court earlier this morning. We'd had some initial conversations about the distinction between the privilege and Rule 1.6, and it sounded like you wanted to be heard on that.
Your Honor, it was brought to my attention, and I apologize because I don't have things.
What do you need?
Well, a copy of the case in front of me would be helpful, but it's not necessary. It would just take me a second to keep looking at my phone and responding to the court.
Whatever you need to do.
Your Honor, I believe the case for in anticipation of piercing the rule of 1.6 is Owens Corning Fiberglass versus American Centennial. Is that correct?
Pardon, Your Honor. It's difficult. You're in counsel. Could you?
There's a microphone there at the jury box. You can try to
Hear what he's saying. Thank you.
either try to lift that microphone up and speak in the jury box, or make your way over to the podium or table. Sorry.
Is that any better?
All right, and no, that was authority provided by Mr. Sadow over our morning recess, and I think that was indicated to go more towards a potential crime fraud argument. I don't think we've really gotten there yet.
It's not crime fraud per se. It's the same notion. It's fraud on the court, different proposition.
Okay.
But yes, as to attorney-client privilege waiver,
Right.
1.6 confidential and secret waiver.
The case that I had cited to this morning, showing the distinction between the two, was tenant health care. So that's where we were on the threshold issue. Did you have something that you wanted to address on that?
I have not been able to review that, Your Honor. I was unfortunately unaware.
All right, Mr. Ward, you're co-counsel with Mr. Bradley?
I'm not here in that capacity.
Remind me why you are here.
I'm here in this just assisting. You just assisting. Bradley. Counsel.
Okay, so you are co-counsel on this.
Well, this morning when you were asking where he was, I had to make sure everybody knew the original was here. That's what I was doing.
The judge is saying it's tenant.
Right, and the citation for that is 273 Georgia 206.
So it looks like they're in recess just to rehash of what just went on. Number one, they called Fani Willis' father to the stand, Mr. Floyd. He is a retired lawyer. He was pretty sharp, but the only thing that backfired on their case of calling him to the witness, they prepped him. And he was able to listen to the testimonies prior to him coming to be questioned. So they kind of coordinate the effort. And then he told on them, hey, I was prepped by the attorneys, and I believe Fani Willis was there when I was getting prepped. Okay, really? So you saw Michael Roman's attorney trying to strike his testimony. And I think the judge said they're going to sidebar that to see whether or not they're going to strike it. But yeah, it totally backfired on them. Totally backfired on them. Another thing I want to point out, I find it hard to believe that Fani Willis and her father, as close as they are, he did not know anything about Nathan Wade until the news told us 7 weeks ago. I mean, Fani Willis, she did an awesome job of hiring or hiding this affair.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, from your dad, but he is an elderly gentleman, so
Yeah, I learned some interesting facts
don't
about
do
the
that.
horse
Why would you
that
mess with the
was
camera,
made, too.
Chase? Why would you do that?
Okay.
Okay. So I find it hard to believe that happened. And then another thing that I want to point out. So you have Nathan Wade's, you have Fani Willis claiming that, she kept this relationship secret. Okay. You have Nathan Wade saying it was secret. The father saying it was secret. Then if it was so secret, how come that other girl that you claim that wasn't really your friend, how come she knew about it? She knew about y'all relationship before everybody else. But you said this lady is not your friend. So those are the things I hope, the people put or the judge put the 2 and 2 together. And I find it, I don't know. I think it was elderly for him to say, I hate to be racist. I think it's just, that's the age thing. I didn't take offense to that. I don't know a lot of Black people just putting cash in a mattress. I don't know a lot of Black people keeping cash on hand. Those are Black people that probably can't get a checking account. And no offense to you guys out there, you don't have a savings account, you don't got a 401k, you got a checking, you don't got a checking account, and you got to get a reverse mortgage on your house because maybe you didn't save up any cash in your 401k or whatever, or you didn't get an IRA before you retire. So really old school, kind of stuff that is probably normal for him because of his age. But I think it says a lot about Fani Willis. I don't think she has good credit. I think she doesn't really pay her bills on time. And reason why I'm saying that is because you decided you got a bunch of cash on you. You was behind on property taxes. Your father walked away from a property. This is just a whole bunch of stuff that normal people don't do that. But anyway, so I'm going to take a break, you guys, while they're taking a break. And I'll be back online around 2:00 to see where they're at in the stream. If the court has, came back has came back to session. Okay, so you guys tune in around 1:30, 2:00. That's when I'll come back on stream. All right, so I'm sending all my good to you. You guys have a good one.